Links to join channel here over on Subscribestar. So Wednesday writers need to be more Latinx, Latin, or maybe trans Latin. Hashtag Wednesday writers so white. Though I'm not sure what they are or what they identify as, which is the only thing that matters in today's world. So Wednesday, it's the Addams Family show from the I don't know '60s, mediocre show, but in today's climate, it's the best, the worst. And I feel that way about a lot of stuff. Remember when It's Always Sunny came out in 2006 ish, and people thought it was so good, and you look around, it's like, no, it's really not. It's just decent. It's middle of the road. It's just everything else around it, even in 2006, was just already just the canned laughter. Just oh god, it's just the worst of network sitcoms. They've just always been the worst possible soy slop you can imagine. Mental soy slop. And It's Always Sunny came out, and the first couple seasons were doing things a little bit differently, but it wasn't. It was never brilliant. It was just always relatively better than everything else that came out. Everything else was just the dumbest MF and stuff on earth. So it's Latin and black, but the globalist media are. It's got a bunch of those actors in it, but the globalist media are triggered when they portray it as nuanced in any shape at all, i.e., as having negative character traits. So they're upset if the Pox characters are anything other than Purse Puppy, Mary Sue, Rose Ticos, and Rays. So you ask them, well, who, pray tell, do you want to be the bad guys if you exclude the non-European characters from the roles of antagonists? That only leaves the European actors to play the antagonists, which, yes, that's where we are now. That's where we've been for a long time. The further back, I always reference Karate Kid or Revenge of the Nerds, and you start looking back further and further, and you go, oh, they've been doing this like blonde versus dark for a long time. Now let me say the F and obvious. Of course, it's anti-white racism, but it also destroys the willing suspension of disbelief. Obviously, Hollywood. It's like, yes, we're well aware it's anti-white. That's why we're in Hollywood. Thing is, it also destroys the willing suspension of disbelief because Europeans are so awesome, and everyone knows it. But if every time you see black hair versus blonde hair, you know who the protagonists and antagonists are, and the correlation by now is like 100%, then the story is told on the first page. There's no need to turn the cover on those kind of stories. There is no disbelief or verisimilitude because the brutal reality is that everyone knows blonde people are not the problem in any situation, which isn't politically correct, but ignoring the truth is what got us here. Anyway, and here's some funnies. I have noticed that what YouTube does, in my experience watching YouTube, I've only made videos for a short while, but they will allow channels will naturally get further and further into the politically incorrect. I don't know if you want to call it to the right or to the based, and then YouTube will do a purge every few years, and they just do that periodically. And right now, channels are creeping back into the you're getting more and more un-PC channels sneaking in around the corners. And then I think pretty soon YouTube's probably going to do another purge, which is great. I mean, it sucks to get kicked off, but it's like anything that builds up Odyssey and the other platforms is like, there's got to be alt platforms because YouTube is just, everything on YouTube is like, what's the SS Sniper Wolf type of stuff where it's like you have a beautiful girl on a low-cut top with just a ton of makeup doing reaction videos. It's like, that's YouTube. It's like, it didn't have to be. I mean, YouTube was originally called YouTube, but whatever. Anyway, to the point here, think about the totality of the circumstances. There are like 3 or 4 writers on the show. Now follow me here. I honestly, I don't know what their ethnicity is or what they identify as. These writers made the story great, or they had a big part of it. Credit to the actors and everyone else who worked on the show, but everyone knows writing is critical. And you're writing to the actors' capabilities of how well they can carry out, what you're giving them. These writers helped get the show the viewers. So now these soy boys and cat ladies in the media, and this lady who wrote the article, never mind. The soy boys and cat ladies in the media want to do is literally fire the writers that made the very show popular and hire Mexican and black writers. How insane is that? This is known as killing the golden goose from the fairy tale from, I forgot who wrote it. Maybe Hans Christian Andersen. I don't know who they if they would swap out the golden goose also. But these globalists actually do this kind of thing quite often. It's the four-panel meme of some white guys create something cool, and then the soy people whine to be allowed in. Then they seize control, and then they kick out the creators, and it fails because they're not as good as the original writers. Because, of course, I mean, but here's the thing. I totally support this. Always accelerate. They will do to this what they did to Star Wars, Willow, Rings of Power, She-Hulk, Charlie's Angels, Ghostbusters, X-Men, Terminator. There's a whole, God, it seems like in the past 10 years, there's just been a whole string of these type of shows. Black Widow, kind of, sort of, Birds of Prey, Suicide Squad 1 and 2, but it was really part 2 that was kind of just like, I feel like I'm just watching nothing. They've done it to a bunch of shows. It's like, yeah, we're repeat, rinse and repeat. Yeah, but it hasn't sold. I mean, Red Panda, how's that show doing? Oh, it lost $170 million. Oh, okay. I mean, that's a serious chunk of money. Yeah, whatever. It's Disney. So the show is already woke, but it's trying to have like the thinnest of thin hairs of nuance, like a mouse hair of nuance to the Pox characters. They're still mostly purse puppies. They're just not quite as purse puppy as they were before. So the writers of this article wants to fire the writers of the show. They did their part. They got the show off the ground. They did the heavy lifting. The show is doing well, but the portrayal of the Poxwalks characters are problematic, so the writers must be fired and replaced with Mexican and black writers so that they can accurately write the Mexican and black characters. But then, I mean, doesn't that apply to all the characters? Shouldn't they all be represented by specific writers? And like, I mean, Mexico is just it's a country. It's a nationality, not an ethnicity, right? So, I mean, you can literally be 100% German and still be Mexican. So, why do only blacks and Mexicans get writers? Why don't the various other groups get writers for their characters? Nothing matters, obviously. I doubt they will hire new writers unless they really are that woke and insane. I mean, what they might do is just hire one and keep them on in the corner of the room, but they have a modestly successful little show, and it does have a little bit of buzz behind it. Why would they? I mean, you want them to fire themselves and hire replacements, or like add to the roster more writers? It's like you have like a 3 or 4 person writing room. It works. They know how to function together, and that's like there's a chemistry in doing anything. So you're saying like you want them to bring in a Mexican writer and a black writer to write these aspects of the show or incorporate them into the writing room. So now you have, instead of 3 or 4, you've got 5 or 6 writers. That's going to slow everything down, increases costs. It's like, why would you, if you have lightning in a bottle with a modestly successful little show, why would you do anything to f that up? Because these are globalists. It's like it's that 4-panel meme. They just keep doing that thing over and over again, where they're like parasites that go on to structure and structure. They just destroy every structure, and they just go on to a new structure. It's, if you don't keep them out. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what a show like this would do. Like, yeah, we're gonna hire new writers for, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of dollars it costs to pay them. It's like, yeah, it's just insane. Why even be in Hollywood in any capacity unless you're somewhere up on the Marxist hierarchy? If you can get replaced at any time. I mean, the smart thing to do is like identify as an Afro-Latino, which I actually am. I just discovered it a few years ago that I am a woman of color. Maybe I should apply to write for the show. I'm sure that would go over well. Probably like a Led Zeppelin. Anyway, click the links, join the Subscribe Star, become a member here, and I will see you guys all next episode.